And of course, then they have a cop at Mary Castle trying to let their traffic go in and out.
Yeah,
That is. Yeah, I'll probably go back home to Fall Creek.
It's in here. Check, check. Hopefully it works. Check, check, check.
Okay, good. It's there's obviously a little bit of delay.
yeah.
Excellent. So let me Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming today. Thanks for joining us virtually today. Welcome to Team. How many of you have not ever been to Team before? Wow, fantastic. Great. I think we have probably 3 or 4 people virtually that I can tell. I think I'm probably 2 of those people who are listed in the virtual list, just because I have to make sure it's working on this computer, and then I have to make it work on this computer. And anyway, but thank you for coming today. We have a packed agenda, as you can tell. There are 42 or 45 people in the agenda document, which is, I guess, a little odd because there aren't 42 people here plus up virtually. So we either have them open on our phones or there's other stuff going on that way. Anyway, my name is Robbie Grimes. I am the unofficial, unassigned, I guess, organizer of Team. My day job is as a new learning specialist at Wayne Township Schools, and I get to do this also. This is one of the 3 highlights of my year when I get to help 3 times a year with this particular group. It's a fantastic group, and hopefully you will leave with some things that will help you in doing what you do every single day. First off today, I want to introduce Kevin Ballman from Edmentum, who's provided the breakfast for us. First of all, thank you very much. He's going to talk to us just a little bit about Edmentum, what it is, and how you could possibly benefit from it. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. All right. So first off, just kind of want to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about my background and my role with Edmentum. I am a former teacher from Wayne Township, High School, and worked in several districts here in central Indiana, Center Grove, Hamilton Southeastern, and Crumble schools. In each of those roles as an assistant principal at the high school level, really focused on that instructional piece. And most recently, thinking about how we make the most of devices in the classroom. Bringing me to my role with Edmentum, understanding as we make that transition from some of the products that we've had in the past, how they've been used, how those transitions to the one-to-one environment, new world we're living in. So let's see if we're all right. So just kind of give you an overview of who we are in Indiana. If everybody, while you're on your devices, go ahead and go to edmentum.com. Just to kind of give an overview of the products and services that we do provide. You'll see names there like, what's the one you think of first? Several of you in the room have this Play-Doh Learning, right? Play-Doh Learning been around since 1953. The first computerized course out there. Used a lot for credit recovery, used for alternative environments. We're seeing that change dramatically. Still being used there, but also using in applications. Other flagship product is Study Island, a Sailor's Mastery product, thinking about what our kids know, right? Thinking about new evaluation models, a lot of ideas about what am I doing with the data to improve instruction. Study Island to give you that feedback really quickly and really easily. And then other products, Education City and Reading Aids. With all of our products in Indiana, we work with around 85 districts in the state of Indiana. Those are covered by myself, Matt Griffin, Matt Farrell, who many of you have met in the past. And then we have also an inside team within our headquarters in Indianapolis, Minnesota, who all work with schools in the So, kind of getting to that, I know we're going to have that discussion a little bit later about stuff. We are not the LMS. We are not an SIS. We're not a device provider. We really are that content provider when you look at your student learning. So as folks think about us, we like to really clarify that, because many districts we meet with really have a good handle on the device or kind of know their process, really have a good handle on their LMS and how that's going to work. Where we're finding folks kind of struggling is, or just not having as clear of a direction, is on their content piece. We're not there to say, we're going to use Plato content for having for every kid, but it's going to be used as a resource in the background as folks are developing their content. So like I mentioned, we're really changing that idea from student sits in front of a computer, works on a course. How can our content be used in that one-to-one environment? We have 10 districts. We'll probably be in 15 to 16 as we go through the summer throughout the state, who have used our solutions as a full K-12 textbook replacement. So using textbook funding for paying for that, our solutions. We range from $25 to $35 a student when we do that. A lot of folks have then tied that to a device so that in the end, their textbook rental fees go down. Where we are right now, and one of the things that just kind of want to highlight as you're talking about the LMS discussion later on, is we're really working on our LTI integration so that you guys know a lot more about this than I do. I'm going to give my layman's terms. You can pull our content, have it rest within your LMS. We're working with HSE, with Blackboard right now, here at Lawrence Township with Canvas. So we're really putting some time and effort into how do our products really work nicely with the LMS that you're moving to. Mobile readiness, always the question, does it work on any device? We're at a point now where 90% mobile device ready will be 100% throughout the summer. And then that real-time data piece, not being able to, or not having to go in and pull 100 reports to know where your students are, but seeing everything in a nice clear dashboard. And then, okay, now while you're on the website, go to Education City. You go to our solutions or products. Because this is something that is a little bit different than in the market, than anyone else in the marketplace, is we have a new elementary computing. So divided into three parts, coding, information tech, and digital literacy, so that as you're introducing devices to those elementary folks, there's a nice scoping sequence for using a computer in the classroom. So something that, just again, in your roles, I know sometimes that may or may not fall under your umbrella, but something to take a look at and know what's out there. And we can do that pretty, very reasonable price. So, what's next as far as a lot of you in the room we work with, ongoing and continually assessing the products, the solutions that we have. One of the things we're really finding is that as folks look at the district itself, many times people don't know really what they have. And you take the example of the elementary teacher who's purchased this one thing 1 year, maybe you've continued to renew that, nobody's using it. Or we've purchased something and the principal's left, just kind of the emphasis on those different programs. One of the things we're doing right now is coming in and working with districts to just do an assessment. Look at K through 12, what do you have? What's the usage? What's the price? And you can share that with us, or you can keep that to yourself, just to kind of frame that discussion so that when you do have a need and look at that solution, you can kind of see where there might be some cost savings associated with working with one vendor to provide as many services as possible. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks for having me here this morning. I'll be here this morning. So if you have questions, I have cards floating around somewhere. I have content in the back that I didn't we have our website. That's the best resource for you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin. Let's move over back to the agenda. As in the past, make sure that as we are going through the agenda that you're taking notes at the bottom, very bottom of the page. It's like somebody has already been doing that. It's fantastic. If you want to add some anchors and some bookmarks to make it easier to do that, that would be fantastic. What I might do is I might put all of the links to prior agendas in the our team Google group, so that we can have access to that as well, to get all of those notes and resources. I already saw that Molly Yow's already put some things in for later on for curating digital content, a good list of resources for content curation. DOE couldn't be here today. I talked with Candace, and she said that they were all of her team was completely busy throughout the day today. Couldn't connect with us. However, she did want me to mention the Summer Bee Learning Conferences. How many of you are part of a district that's doing one? All right, quickly tell us.
The Lawrence Township, we're going on Monday, Tuesday, 15th and 16th of June. It'll be held at Lawrence North High School. We've got Alan November and Brian Mull coming as our two keynote speakers. And we're still looking for presentations if people want to do it. Our website is nsdltelearning.com. That's about it.
Fantastic.
I possibly be beyond at Cedar Grove High School on June 9th. We have Ginger Lumen, who is, of course, with Kevin Honeycutt coming, focusing on STEM. A lot of things you can do with that. We have 150 spots left.
Excellent. John.
Ours isn't really part of ELE, but I'm going to talk it anyway, or I'm going to be part of the DOE, but we're doing ELE Madison County, June 16th and 17th. It's going to be Anderson University. We've got really 5 kind of keynote. Robbie's one, Drew Minnick, George Toros, Matt Miller, and Paul Davidson. And we're still open. I would say Google ELE Madison County because the address is for me to read that. We're still open. We've got now over 80 sessions so far, 250 people, participants. So it's going to be big.
Excellent. Around other in-house, meaning in this room, Summer Bee Learning Conferences. Yes.
We're at South Amelia Transform E-Learning Conference. It's June 25th and 26th. And we have Kevin Honeycutt, Tara Lenny, and Sarah Young.
Okay. And yours?
We are hosting Greenfield Central and Southern Hancock schools. We're joining together to do it. E-Learn Conference. It's the first time, I guess, we're having it at 2 separate locations. So Thursday, June 4th is actually hosted at Greenfield Central Junior High School. Friday is going to be at Doe Creek Middle School in Southern Hancock, and we have Dr. James Beagley and Kevin Honeycutt as our 2 keynotes. And our conference title is Apple Media, focusing on apps and Apple products, because both of our districts use MacBooks and iPads, and all sorts of other fun stuff. So registration will open next week.
Fantastic. Anybody else? Yeah.
Not part of the e-learning series, but the idea goes to conference on couch again. Kind of a small affair with the title of very company environment. That's June 24th. Keynote's going to be Lori Lee Sutzel. She's a professor at Marion, and feature keynote Don Weber.
All right. And one in the back.
We're Wabash County, Wabash City, Manchester Community Schools, all combined together for the WISE conference. We have Michael Wesh from Kansas State University first day, and then sort of a trio of elementary, middle, and high, Mike Gorman, Chris Zimke and Campbell. Tim Campbell. And so we have 2 days, June 10th and 11th.
All right, fantastic. Gratuitous plug for all of those schools who have representatives in the room, and we are doing one in Wayne Township, Google Ed Camp. As an Ed Camp, there aren't any speakers and there aren't any keynotes. You just come and bring your ideas that you would like to speak on, and bring your ideas that you would like to learn about, and hopefully those will all match up in beautiful, blessed cyberspace, I guess, and you will get to learn a lot. We're very excited. I believe we are going to have either Mike Schwab or James Leonard from Google who will be there as well. But that's a free conference, and it's on the Summer Learning website too, completely free. That's on July 9th. So bring teachers and administrators and instructional people and anybody wanting to know about Chromebooks or Google or how that works. Anybody else for Summer Learning stuff? Hopefully you'll get to, everyone in this room will at least get to attend one, if not several. I'm excited about the way the state has kind of organized that and provided funds for that. It's an incredible opportunity for our state and for our educators. The other thing that Candace wanted me to mention was the Hoosier Student Digital Leaders, HSDL. They're on the 25th of April, just a week or so away, a little over a week. They're going to have this Hoosier Student Digital Leaders, and if you, I guess there's still time to sign up. She said that in the email to me, so that was probably 3 days ago, knowing that it was going to be now. So you can take a team, and that team, one of those teams that goes will win $2,500. So there's an opportunity for some funding through that too. So is anybody taking a group? Awesome. Very good. So 3 different school districts at least. Good. That's fantastic. All right. So let's, the thing that I wanted to talk about first with this group was the Google Ask for Education Summit that was held in Franklin last weekend. Who went? Awesome. Tell us how it went. I wasn't able to attend. Heard lots of fantastic stuff about it.
They had over 500 people attending.
Nice. Very nice.
So you got out of jail, Kim?
So you got out of jail?
Yeah.
That's a great picture.
Wasn't that a great slide?
That was a great slide.
Yeah, the location was awesome. The internet worked flawlessly. I was really surprised with that many devices on. It was a great atmosphere. It just, I don't know, I hope they do it next year. I think they are. Yeah.
They
did it. It just worked really well. The location, the people. I just thought they did a phenomenal job.
they handpick presenters and bring them in from all over. They're just energy, very positive, and they down to earth, and it doesn't matter if you're brand new. I mean, they were celebrating people that were sending out personal tweets, and it didn't matter who you were or what you knew. You kind of were all, everybody was, it was like one big happy family reunion. You just had a good feeling. But
There's just something for everybody. I mean,
Yeah,
it didn't matter what you were
exactly.
looking for. There was sessions on whatever you think of, and presenters were so generous in sharing their resources and materials, and everything was really well organized. It's like just flawlessly executed. It's just smooth.
And I'll even point out that they had it was like I can't think of the word, but the schedule was up for discussion. Susan even got to repeat one of her sessions because it had gone well on Saturday, so they said, we're going to have to do it again on Sunday. So it was evolving.
Yeah, extremely flexible in allowing to say, oh, well, you had 45 people jammed into a classroom that was supposed to hold 30, and some people didn't really get the experience that they needed. So could you do this again tomorrow, and we'll find a bigger classroom for you? And I saw that happening not only with my class, but a bunch of other classes. So that kind of flexibility, and I even noticed on Sunday, they got one class into a room and realized that they had too many people for it, and immediately changed that class to another classroom. So they were on top of it, and that made it very enjoyable. And it was fun. They just kept it very light. They didn't feel like we were, even though it was a beautiful weekend, I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything because there was so much going on inside.
People stay late those days. That's a why when it's weekend and Sunday. People stay through until 5:30 some days.
Door prizes. That's why I stayed.
And this brings me back to the GIF gift days. I've heard Gaff, Gaffy, even at the conference, you would hear sometimes Gaff, sometimes Gaff. So I think we should vote someday. Stick with it.
We need to call Mr. Google. Find out what he says. Which one it is. What was your biggest takeaway? One of the things, aha moments for you.
The best thing for me was the speakers that involved you as if you were a student in showcasing the potential for the products. They didn't go through the details of how to create this kind of an online quiz. They basically set it up, let you take the quiz and actually experience it and see it. It's a great modeling of technology so that you went away then thinking, okay, now I'm going to figure out how to use this one because of the 4 he showed me, this is which one would work. And since you experienced it, you owned it a little bit more than just seeing somebody show you how to set it up.
My teacher said the exact same thing. I was fortunate to have 12 from my school attend, and the model that was used, it just met them right where they needed as teachers. This is how it looks in a classroom, not here's how to point and click, here's how to set it up, but how it looks to be used. Our biggest takeaway was we needed our administrators and our kind of our master, mentor, teacher people to be there to see this is how we want professional development delivered to us in a context that we can use and model in our own classrooms. So it was really powerful, and we had a lot of great lunchtime discussions over, okay, how do we get this to happen? And for myself, it was truly, this is pathetic, but it is the first time that I had that sense of, oh my gosh, my hands aren't in everything. You know, these teachers are inspired about Google Forms, and they're inspired about this, and they're learning Pear Deck, and how am I going to learn it all? I was like, wow, this is great. Look at this, you know, and it was really awesome. And they're excited and hope to get more people there next year.
Yeah, Kim.
We also did our so and one from each of our schools has a even though we take that for granted and we do that a lot, and we've been doing it for years, a lot of our teachers haven't really done that before. And to collaborate with their peers during those 2 days and have that shared, I think it just kind of clicked with some of them, like, oh my gosh, and they were making comments and helping each other, and to see a high school teacher talking to an elementary teacher about an idea through that collaborative document was really pretty slick. And so it was neat.
What else did you take away from your time there?
I thought here of, from an integration piece, it wasn't something to do, it just was. You know, you didn't go in and somebody teaching you how to integrate, it was just, everything was integrated. And it was just kind of, this is the way it is, not this is the way it should be, this is what you should do. And it was just, we don't see that, I don't see that in our corporation because there's so much to do, but it's good to kind of see the goal as we're on the journey towards the goal. That's what I got just from everything. Just, this is it, not this is where you're going.
I think also I was impressed by the obvious commitment of the Google educators. They were there, that were there to continue to improve on what they're doing. They were listening very closely to comments and suggestions from people. And it was just real obvious that they're going to continue to support very strongly the use of Google Apps in education. So that was a great takeaway. And also the forced copy, right, Kim?
Yes, that was nice.
And the 3 lines that, it's just a little blurred. Those 3 lines, nobody ever really knows what to call them. Pancakes. That's what.
No. Venetian lines.
What?
Venetian lines.
I'm going with pancakes.
Not hamburger.
What's that?
We've heard hot dogs, we've heard.
Sorry.
I think one of my favorite sessions was the keynote from one of the keynotes on the second day. He had a session towards the end of the day, and he said, "Okay, everybody put their devices away." And we did an entire session where we were interacting with one another, and then we broke up into groups, and it was just making the atmosphere comfortable for the participants by getting to know people with goofy things like coming up with a nickname and coming up with a secret handshake with somebody else, and then working together collaboratively in small groups on a task that didn't involve any of the technology, to start thinking about how we get the learning accomplished. And so it's interesting when you go to a technology conference and you don't use any technology because you really are focusing on the learning. And so that was a good session for me to be at, I think, to just refresh how those learning pathways can occur and the environment of your classroom that you need to have in order to even eventually use the technology as a tool for influential learning. So
Good. Anybody else? All right. How many of you are moving into maker spaces? Nobody. Okay, Kim? Couple? Discussions of it, or do you actually have things set up?
I think we're just sort of entering slowly into it. Found some 20-year-old robotics Lego sets from our old robotics team. Unearthed those from the depths of our storage units, and I've been trying to push on some people in the lower elementary and middle school and really no takers. So we're getting one new teacher who's interested. He's a mathematics teacher. So rather than put it in the library, we just put it all the resources in this room. 15 boxes of Legos, and the kids have separated catalog. I got an Arduino on them and some little bits and some other stuff, and they're just eating it up. And so now he's asking, this neat part of a regular classroom, and teachers are coming in to see, and so it's a little bit of buzz. And Brian from MSD is doing similar things, and so our bedroom room at Wise is going to be a big maker playground. We're going to have a bunch of tables set up like this with stations, just to create the interest. So hopefully you'll see it in the classroom. Pretty isolated now.
Okay. Yep.
We are in the process of hiring a STEM coach for the district. We just built a technology center, and then next door to us we have a maintenance barn. We're going to transform that into a STEM center. So that STEM coach will work with the technology department, but also in that STEM center. And the hope is that we could have our schools kind of do field trips. So we'll have the 3D printers and all that. It will also house a robotics program. And then the STEM coach will then work with all the different schools integrating that. And we're going to try to hopefully kick it off this summer by after our summer relearning conference. For the next 3 days, we're going to do the STEM maker camp with Ginger Movement for our teachers and our parents and our students. So we'll have 3 days with her, kind of kicking that off. That's something that has come out of our strategic planning. Our community members, they want more of that. So we feel like this will be a very strategic move in moving that program forward.
Yep.
Our STEM teachers at our elementary levels, we have one per building, just received a grant where next year they're going to be dabbling into the maker spaces where they have little bits, Raspberry Pi, Lego, doing a lot more coding, but trying to just giving it. We gave this week, matter of fact, we gave them this box of goodies. Said, okay, so what are you going to do with it? And so working with the STEM team that we teach week alongside myself, looking at okay, how can we integrate this into the STEM program that we currently have.
Seems as if there's a lot of talk about maker spaces and a lot of, oh, that's really cool. And what do you think is the thing that's hindering school districts from putting some significant effort and dollars behind actually moving forward and doing it?
I-STEP test.
I was gonna say time. I mean, I've been contacting teachers constantly trying to get them to buy into the makerspace. Because I was writing a grant to get some things and I couldn't even get them to suggest something that they would be interested in, you know, encouraging students to come in. I'm actually a librarian, so I'm looking from the library space. But yeah, they're awesome. They're great when they work, and I've seen how they work because I have fellow librarians that do it. But it's just, you have to have your teachers buy into it.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions about makerspaces too. I don't know that, I think our teachers need to experience quality makerspaces to fully understand them, because too often they can just turn into arts and crafts time, which is good in art class, but.
We were talking about that, and Michelle and I, our e-learning team were talking about that in a meeting this week. And so often when you leave a makerspace, you come away with this cutesy little toy thing. And that's nice and all, and yeah, you went through a learning process. You could make legitimate the fact that you did learn while you were making this, but what did you really do besides make something that was kind of neat? You know, did you solve a problem? Did you have an issue that needed, you know, justification, or you know, was there something that you actually had a goal to do in the very beginning to solve, and you did this process of makerspace to solve this, whatever this problem is? And so I'm wondering if there is a lack of reason and justification for actually doing it. Or do people in the back of their minds really have, okay, there's this makerspace and oh, I made some jewelry. Or oh, there's this makerspace and I made a little robot that drives across the table. Okay, what do I now do with that? Yeah.
Our PLTW guys at Fall Creek Valley Middle School, they do a lot of different things. They've got spaces built in the back of the classrooms, full-blown tables with robotics gear and all the stuff for the robotics team. But they also do in some of their engineering design classes. One of the projects that just came to mind when you were talking about that, they do a catapult war, which is pretty sweet. And so they actually divide into teams and they have like a battle with these catapults, and they basically just put the stuff out, give them their design notebooks and say, okay, like you need to design a catapult. The battle's going to be in X number of days. These are the rules. This is kind of generally how you're going to do it. You need to use this stuff to make a catapult that we are then going in real time have this fight. And they have all these different little rules, and they turn into a game, and the kids really, really like they geek and get into it and go hardcore into it. But they go through the whole design process of, you know, drawing the whole 9 yards. The whole PLTW model is kind of built around that. But we have them. If anyone wants to see it happen, they have people come. We've got people come to Fall Creek Valley all the time and watch our PLTW guys kind of do their thing. So our doors are always open.
A plug to ICE is hosting August 15th a maker event in Bloomington in collaboration with IU Creativity Labs. And we haven't sent out registration information for that yet, but our goal is to make that registration is going to be free for that. And the idea is that teachers and educators can go in and experience a makerspace, lots of different booths, lots of different types of making, and then the afternoon will be devoted to conversations about what this looks like inside of a curriculum, inside of a standardized curriculum.
Who's setting that up in Bloomington?
Huh?
Who's setting that up?
It's ICE and IU Creativity Labs are.
Okay, IU Creativity.
Yeah, we're co-sponsoring that.
People down Bloomington would like to know what's going on.
But August 15th, we'll be posting in like the coaches group and on various listservs with registration information coming out. But it should be a really interesting event.
Good. Anybody else in makerspaces? Nope. All right. So one of the things that has come up quite a bit recently at our team meetings has been the idea of districts going to one-to-one and moving in that direction. There are still districts that are still kind of dipping their foot in the water in providing devices for their students, and how that's going to look and how you pay for that and all that stuff. And so someone, actually a couple of someone's asked about the ups and downs of going one-to-one, and what have you seen as successful? What have you seen that has really kind of been something where you would say, don't do this? And so let's kind of have a discussion about that. And what are some of the things that you think? Okay, make sure that you do these things. And you can't get this done in a half an hour, by the way. No way can this discussion happen. This happens over a year or more if it's done well, as far as planning and implementation and things like that. As a matter of fact, I heard of a district this morning who was looking at going into one-to-one, and they're just telling their teachers, like right now, that they're going one-to-one next year, beginning of next school year. That district to be unnamed.
I would say, just initially, we spent 3 years building buy-in because our community was not ready. Our board was not ready. The real reason it took 3 years to get board approval to begin with was that the board had no idea. And there was so much community and board education. You just have to build buy-in from everyone. You have to get to a tipping point. And our community, it took 3 years.
It's like politics.
It is.
You know, clearly people have started running for president now, obviously. And so you don't spend this kind of money in school districts without doing some politicking. You know, you have to get people who are the stakeholders involved. You can't just decide you're going to do it, or it will flop. I've seen it flop in districts. It will flop. We did a gradual rollout, gradual gathering of support in Wayne Township as well to do that.
We found out you don't announce you're going one-to-one and then not do it. That was a problem. We had to backtrack on that.
Wow. So tell me what happened.
New director.
Okay.
New director came in and said, time out. I'm not going this direction. Right back. Then later on, he did. Later in the year.
So I mean, what was the fallout behind and making an announcement saying you're going to
First fallout
stop?
was teachers. You know, they went, wait a second. I did all this workshop work. I'm getting everything ready, and there's nothing here. Wait a second.
It wasn't properly communicated with them either.
No.
It wasn't like that.
Right. It just
Or
didn't
with most
happen.
of the staff. It just didn't happen.
And then parents started asking, and then I think the superintendent got involved.
I think as with anything, like you're saying, communication and PR, it has to be. You need to make posters. You need to put it on billboards. You need to put yard signs.
Well, I'm glad I didn't do that about it was coming.
And then have it pulled out from under you. Yeah, I bet you are glad that didn't happen. But as far as it is a PR thing, most definitely. Because in the day of referendums and all that stuff, if you're going to ask for money, you better have a reason why you're going to use it, and you better show educationally why it's going to be important. I'm from Wayne Township, but there is a district around me that's doing a referendum right now, and they are, the people who are saying no are saying, oh, why do you need this building? I think maybe you need to focus on the classroom and the curriculum. That's one of the big things that they're focusing on.
I would say, you know, we rolled out in phases, and those first classrooms and groups that we used were ones that we were like 95% sure were going to do it well and successfully. So then it became almost a peer thing, or, well, look what they're doing in their classroom. I want that in my classroom too. So that kind of good experience, those people that we targeted to be our pilot people, made for good PR in the end.
So doing pilots, we did pilots as well.
Yeah.
We did pilots to
Eased
figure out what
into it.
device we were. We started pilots with tablets. And then realized that tablets weren't good for where we had them. Moved the tablets out, tried them somewhere else, and started a different one-to-one in that place where we had started with tablets, because we had buy-in. Just wasn't the platform for that particular grade level and that particular group of population.
So that makes me think of the question, why is it I see districts that use tablets K-12 and say they're successful, feel like they're successful. Other districts, us included, I don't think we can put tablets in at the upper grade levels to be successful. Why is it some districts are able to be successful with tablets and others can't?
I think success is all relative, and can't tell you what it's relative to. We just found that where we put tablets at Wayne Township, we found that our teachers and students said, "I want a keyboard." And yes, you can have a keyboard on a tablet. You can do that, but then you've got two separate things, and you got to keep track of those, and all of that stuff comes into play. Our teachers and students just said, "I want a tablet." Then it was very easy where we went after we became a GAF school, and we decided to call it GAF. Some of us call it GAF. But we decided that the tablet was not necessarily a good form factor for really third grade and higher. So we're doing Chromebooks third grade and higher because they wanted a keyboard. We start typing instruction at third grade or second grade, and so we thought, okay, well, if we're going to do typing instruction, why would we then do typing instruction in second grade and then third grade give them a tablet when you can't touch type on a tablet without a keyboard, obviously. They wanted the full functionality of a word processor, and you can kind of get that on a tablet, but you really can't. And I think how many in the room are moving from Apple to Chrome to Google Chrome stuff? Anybody? There were several hands. How many have moved from Apple to Chrome? Okay. In prior meetings, there have been numerous people who were iPad or Mac districts, and they're moving to Chromebooks. You can't beat the price, and the ease and the ability to be able to manage all that's out there within Google. Apple's been trying to do it, and Google just came out and said, "Hey, we can manage it," and boom, they've got a successful product. It's kind of interesting how that worked. So what else about one-to-one?
Well,
Yeah, Tony.
you said something about an evaluation or how do you know when you've got there kind of thing. I think some of the districts that I've worked with, I've audited the district that their measure of success when you talk one-to-one to teachers is, oh yeah, well we got netbooks in our classroom, and now it's just so easy to go on all to write a Word document. They all have, or they all want to look up Word or whatever. They're all connected. Until the teacher makes that shift from as the center of content to a facilitator of creation, I guess, turning it around, which is really hard for a lot of teachers, especially those who have done it for a long time. I mean, not only do they have to understand that shift, but feel comfortable in letting it happen so that they may not even be that proficient themselves. I think the whole GAF suite of tools and where that leads is helpful in doing that. Abandon the textbook, even abandon what you did last year in the classroom. But it's so, in that sense, your PD is not necessarily teaching them how to use this device or how to use this piece of software, but how do you make that shift so that your comfort level leaves that the center of content kind of a person and just turns it around. And that's hard. That's a lot harder to do with teaching the machine.
What you started off with saying is that a lot of times teachers are still at the substitution level.
That's right.
And that's how, and they're using them. Another district I know put technology in a particular grade level, and you ask a student how and when they use that technology, and they'll say, "We use it at home." They use those devices at home. We don't ever use them in the classroom. And so, and this school district is saying, "Oh yeah, we've got one-to-one in this particular grade level." Okay, that's fantastic and all, but are your instructors using it? Facilitators of educational learning using it? I don't see that. And when you ask the students who are the receivers of that education, they're telling you no, they're not.
And even back to your makerspaces, I think there's a struggle for teachers in understanding that concept of it's about creativity and something that I'm not going to teach directly. I might start them down the path, but the final product is an unknown piece. It's you know, and you can do the same thing in a high school social studies class. The final product might be something you've never done before, but it's something you have to let go of the reins and see what happens. And that's terrifying for, not all, but I would say most.
I think that still, regardless of technology, still what we are battling is a transformation of the classroom. And like I said, regardless of technology, we are still battling a transformation of sage on the stage to facilitator of learning and students owning their own learning rather than the teacher owning the learning that they have to absorb.
Well,
That's still that same battle.
And then that transformation, the teacher's still the one getting evaluated.
Well, your question is, how do I assess that?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you don't have to assess everything. Yeah, I mean.
Well, and if you give and what I've told the teachers a lot this year, and I've had some kind of branch out, is that if you give them, the content that you want at the end, let the kids present it any way they want. As long as you say, if you have this, 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 and this, that's what I'm evaluating you on. I don't care how you present it, whether it's through technology or create an artwork or whatever, as long as you have those pieces. And I found the teachers that have kind of stepped out of that platform have become, it's kind of freeing for them because they realize they don't have to teach every little piece of software or every, how to do everything. That the kids are figuring that out, but they're getting these great results back. And the kids are learning even more because if they're taking responsibility in how they're presenting.
This summer, because we are finally one-to-one as of next year, we have these workshops going on this summer with teachers, and I want to make them very collaborative, open-ended, mini workshops, help areas, but have them working in collaborative groups, designing stuff, being more like students trying to model. And I'm convinced, I'm not scared of death, I'm convinced they'll hate it. They'll hate it and they'll hate me. But I'm trying, I want to give them that experience, what you're talking about, but they'll hate it.
Students are like that too.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know if I have a superintendent who's comfortable with them hating it.
This is crazy, but at school, I intentionally let them fail. I created a lesson about, I don't remember what it was about, maybe about TPAC or Google Drive. It was Google Drive. We're doing a Google Drive thing, and I set it up so that the teachers had to learn in the way that we were all discussing. And I gave them very little guidance. I let them fail completely. I let them all walk away all angry and mad, and then brought them all back together again and said, yeah, okay, I did that on purpose. Now let's talk. Why were you mad? What were you frustrated about? What was the whole part of this that drove you crazy? And a lot of it goes back to they were not being taught the way that they had always been taught. And it's very hard for teachers, I think, and myself included, to break away from the mold of how I was taught, because these didn't exist. We didn't have these in the classroom when I went through, or when any of us really went through. And so you want to teach the way that you've been taught, and that's always worked. But now, it doesn't matter how you've been taught.
We put our teachers through a bunch of workshops. We have Solution Tree just stuck down our throats. And so we're doing all these workshops all the time, but they're all sit and get for hours, And so get them away from that, I agree.
You gotta make them mad. I mean, that's what we do, and it worked. I mean, our teachers are pretty much on board now and rocking and roll. I mean, they're not great at it.
It just feels like we've conditioned them to how do you learn things? How do you learn things? You go in this big auditorium and you sit down. And of course, what's the first thing they do when they sit down in that auditorium? They all get out their phones and just start going to Facebook and with it the whole time.
But even if we start making successes with our students, we have a problem when we send them on to higher education, because they go to Purdue and IU and they go in that lecture room with 300, and there they are, back to square one. So that's a battle as well.
It's changing slowly, I think.
Slowly, yeah.
And the IST
EDD program at IU, and they are so forward thinking. They're really trying to branch out into the undergrad education. It's
I think one of the best things we offered for our teachers was to get them to other school districts and see it in action, because seeing is believing. That was very powerful, because we can talk it all day long and be excited and be cheerleaders, but until they actually see it in action. And now that we've got grades 5 and 6 have been this year one-to-one for the first year, so we're going to send our junior high teachers over to the intermediates to see it in action, and we're also bringing in some of our fourth grade teachers from the elementaries up to see what their kids are doing into the fourth grade. And we walk around with them and show them things and have discussions, and there's been a lot of light bulbs that go on.
I want to push back a little bit on the college thing, because I hear from students going to IU is that they didn't feel they were prepared enough for what was going on. Now they're using Canvas, and they are on their own so much, and they have to do discussions, and they have to spend so much time with those new areas that didn't happen in high school. So I think it is changing pretty quickly over there, because they don't have 80-year-old professors anymore at IU. They have a lot of adjuncts who are getting paid $5,000 a semester to teach, and they're 30 years old, and they are hitting them fast, hard things. A lot of things going on, and so they are saying they weren't prepared for that. So
yeah, my brother's a freshman at Purdue, and the classes that prepared him were the PLTW classes. It wasn't the other classes where it was standing up. It was the classes where he was physically solving problems and doing that. I mean, he's doing research, there. So I mean, you do have to rethink the structure of the classroom, because those other classes were not prepared.
Who's at the beginning stages of a one-to-one?
What define beginning?
Maybe investigation, or maybe you rolled them out just this year for the first time. You're rolling them out in the fall?
Teachers have their devices.
Teachers have devices, okay. How many of you have been at least 2 years in to a one-to-one? And how many longer than 2 years? Like you're pretty experienced at that. Okay, good. How many of you are not at all doing one-to-one?
Sort of, kind of.
Which school district?
Greenwood.
Okay.
3-to-1, kind of.
Okay.
We just haven't pulled the trigger on actually putting a physical device in every kid's hands.
Sure. There's a whole day discussion. Oh, I didn't move that again. There's a whole day discussion on how, whether or not you, and in what way you provide those devices as well. Because some schools we can't afford it, but we're going to allow BYOD. Some schools have the funding and are providing it for everybody. Some schools are rolling it out slowly. Some schools are doing a mixture of providing some and doing BYOD. That's what we're doing at Wayne Township. We're providing some, and then as those devices age out, we're going to actually surplus them to the students, and then we'll have BYOD from 10th grade through 12th grade. So 10, 11, 12 ends up being BYOD. Throughout their career, 3rd grade through 9th grade, they will have actually a couple of devices that we will give them. So by the time they get to be a 10th grader, they'll have several devices. At this point, none of which will be a tablet, but they'll be a Chromebook type device as of right now, because in 4 years there could be some other beautiful brand new shiny toy that will come out that we'll want to give our students. However, the sustainability is just incredible. To be able to think that a school district can continue to provide those types of resources. And what did we do with the money that we used for those resources before? Where are you finding money for that type? Those types of discussions can happen for days. How you're going to argue over where that money goes and where you're going to find it. Yeah.
The other thing that I would say that we're running into is The discussion has started last year, of getting away from textbooks with teachers. Now, I'll go into a classroom and the teacher has all their textbooks up on their wall. I'm not even sure they hand them out. But they will go dying, kicking, and screaming. They must have a textbook. And I get it, you know. Even the youngest of teachers in any class wants a textbook handed to those kids. And so that's been the other real problem we've seen in trying to go to the digital curriculum and things like that is that they have, you know, and okay, I don't need the textbook. Yeah, great. Give it to me digital. Give me a digital textbook. Give me the textbook on my laptop. Okay.
The biggest argument there is textbooks always work.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't always use them.
That's the biggest argument. They always work. They always turn on, and they don't ever crash on me.
I'm gonna go back to what Kelly said. They've got to see it. They've got to, if you've got money to get your teachers out into a district that's working well, that's what has turned on light bulbs. We've seen a lot of people in districts that are, where it's been ongoing. And we've had teachers, I'm thinking, gosh, you know, they get it.
I think it's important, it goes back to the question we talked about earlier, is what are we putting as that line of standard for success? Last year, we took a group of teachers we went out and said, we want to come see some districts that have been doing one-to-one successfully. And we came back afterwards, and if there are a couple districts that our teachers are like, they're doing the same thing we are, they're just doing it with the device sitting in front of them. Instead of our kids writing it out, they're just typing it out. Instead of using the textbook, they're just reading it online. There was nothing innovative being done in those classrooms. So I think it's real important that when we do take them out to see that we investigate. When you say that you had a successful one-to-one, what is your measure of success before you take that step out there? Otherwise, why would we do that?
So how many districts are using that textbook rental to purchase devices? And what we've gotten, you know, as we start to, because, you know, that textbook rental was amortized generally over 4 years. So, and I know we no longer have the official adoption year, but everybody's kind of following it because that's when they have to look at buying new textbooks. We did most of our math 1 year, language arts last year, and this next year when we go into social studies, we're not adopting textbooks at any grade level. But we are allowing the teachers to keep a copy of their existing textbook with them. It's just like that security blanket.
For how long?
For as long as they feel like they need them.
Until they like disintegrate into
So,
dust.
you know, so it's the 1967 Encyclopedia Britannica, you know. But because a lot of that information that's in those textbooks seriously doesn't change. They update pictures and, but so it's there. And that makes them, gives them that comfort level that they're saying, oh yeah, okay, I think I can do this.
Our district hasn't adopted textbooks, and in some departments, you know, 5 to 8 years, they haven't had them even before we went to one. Except adopting them, and teachers created their own curriculum and PLCs and have used that. And I think that made maybe going one-to-one a little bit easier because now they have even more resources that they can share with the kids all the time. But that textbook was kind of like pulled out from underneath them a long time ago.
Yeah, and very often when you get a new teacher in and the textbook was adopted by the teacher that was in the class before them, and they look and go, I hate this textbook, and they close it up and they put it on the shelf. So they're already doing so much of that themselves.
Which leads us to our next topic, resources and curating digital content. So ditching the textbook, Matt Miller had a great idea when he pulled that up in coming up with ditch the textbook. His blog is fantastic. If you haven't seen his blog or follow him on his blog, it's a very good resource. Spanish teacher who just likes to share his ideas and thoughts. So let's start taking notes and have some discussion on digital resources. Molly Yao has already put in a very good link, Google Doc link to some resources. She's the, does anybody not know who Molly Yao is? She is, works for Danville, but she also is working with the DOE on the digital content curation group that got a grant. And she has worked with them and other school districts. She's kind of the point person to organize that and the grant money that was given to those school districts for creating digital resources as a tool for the state, and specifically building bundles in My Big Campus, which we'll talk about later. So where are you finding resources if you're not buying textbooks anymore? And by you, I mean your instructors and your curriculum team.
I'll say it, My Big Canvas.
Okay.
Can I pose a question that's related kind of with this whole conversation, but
Don't jump to the My Big Campus discussion.
I'm not.
I intentionally put that at the end of the day,
So we actually
so that
have
this
an
whole
agenda.
day would not be about that, on purpose.
As we're going, our high school students will be renting devices starting next year from our district with the textbook. So we are working on curating digital content, and we are not going to adopt textbooks in the traditional sense anymore. But a question that comes up and conversation that comes up is, will we purchase this program? Can we get this program? And the digital pieces, not necessarily digital textbooks, but like No Running or Right to Learn, things like that. For the districts that are well established, is that something that is common, like a trend to have lots of those supplementary materials that you are paying for? Or are you mostly, let's create our own, let's find the free things that are there?
We do both. We are purchasing, as our focus on textbooks diminishes, we have been looking at purchasing outside content. So Novation's Net Tracker, you pay for that because it's a lot of different learning objects. The one thing that I would recommend, and something that we are doing as Wayne Township, is we are looking at joining the IMS Global Consortium. If any of you are familiar with that, basically it's a consortium of users and organizations that all, like as a part of the consortium, you agree that you're only going to purchase a certain type of content that meets a common cartridge standard. And when you do this, there are several learning management systems, there are several organizations that are a part of this consortium, big ones too, like Pearson, Houghton Mifflin. And when you purchase only those type of content, no matter what LMS you end up going with, it's easier to integrate those learning objects into the same place. And then as your district starts to think about things like single sign-on, you're not having 12 different logins because you purchased 12 different products. So in our case, as part of this consortium and agreeing to only purchase this certain type of content, we're going to be able to pull it all together into one LMS. If the student knows their LMS login, then it automatically signs them in to all of those other learning objects. So so to answer your question, yes, we're doing that. We're being very strategic about the content standards that each of those products have adhered to.
I think we're purchasing, I'd say we're purchasing mainly right now. I went through the summer where I was paying teachers to write content. And I mean, they wrote beautiful stuff, really well thought out, but it got very little out of that. And some very difficult, can't count on it, but it's great to try that and let them see it. But I think right now, when I look at, like, guy behind me's got his gun in my back, you know, they've got Play-Doh. They've got Play-Doh. We're going to count on that at the high school level to give us some content, and we're looking at reading aids and benchmark universe, you know, in the literacy area. there's a whole big in-between that we don't have. That's out there. You know, we don't have enough yet, I think. Okay. But, you know, when you start going into free, it starts looking thinner and thinner somehow. As far as what teachers think is digital. Maybe that's the problem. It's what teachers think is digital content, because they're looking for a textbook.
And I think it goes back to what he was talking about pivoting that whole role around. And exactly right. They're looking for the content to be there and for it to replace the textbook, like you were saying. But really, it's not. You're changing the role and changing the way that the classroom works. It's about the fact that the World Wide Web has all of this content, and now the students in the middle of that large realm of information. The teacher's teaching the student how to get to that information, not put it in one place and allocate. Now, that said, I think in Lawrence Township, our teachers, that's been one of the largest hurdles is finding a way to replace that textbook, since we have them. I mean, I was in the classroom when we got rid of the textbooks X number of years ago, and it was quite the dramatic whole thing. But now that we're to the point where it's gone and we've got these, and the best thing that's happened to us, I think, is the ability on LMS, both on my big campus and then on Canvas now, the ability to replicate and collaborate. So, you know, if this teacher has this thing that's good, they can now share that with their department very easily, very quickly, very efficiently, and that allows that collaboration piece to build your curriculum from the inside out. Because now teachers aren't saying, well, yeah, I've got a filing cabinet of stuff. Billy, come on in and open up a filing cabinet. You can have whatever you want. And when does Billy have time to come in and look through some of these files? I mean, my gosh, that's a terrible idea. Whereas on here now, I can just say, share, done. Here you go. Here's what I'm doing today. And so that's been, I know for our teachers, that's been huge.
I would argue that a PDF version of a textbook is not a digital resource. Just to throw that out there for argument's sake. Yes, ma'am.
I actually study the school corporation based on the first meeting I was at this group, but the Marion County Library has been working. I'm at Irvington, and there's a branch in Irvington, and that library has been working very closely with myself, and we actually had one of them come to the school at our staff meeting this week to present the databases and to show them all the materials that are out there, because I have teachers that when I stand up in front of them, they go into a zone of not wanting to listen. So I decided maybe the librarian they would interact with it more. But they're actually working with us and getting library cards for all of our students for the next school year, so that the students can use the digital content as well, and teachers can assign that. We have a problem with a lot of students that have fines. So the fear of the library, but they have a read your fines away program starting right now, so they're promoting that within our school. But the resources, and even if you're not in Marion County or in Indianapolis Library District, those databases are everywhere, and the resources are phenomenal.
The students have to have their library card.
Yes, you have to have a code punch to type in to get into the databases. But the ebooks that are there and the resources that are there, again, not my idea, I stole it from you guys, but it's going over very well.
Two things about that. Number one, we just signed an agreement with Indianapolis Public Library where starting next fall, when our students enroll, it automatically generates their library card numbers in our system. So that's possible, and the library can work with you on that. Number two, from what last I heard, in the budget that's on the State House floor, funding for many of those databases that is in the Indiana libraries across the entire state is on the chopping block. So a lot of those digital resources that are absolutely awesome, and you get a chance to get on and look at them, they're mind-blowingly good, will be mind-blowingly gone here pretty soon if it all continues the way that it's moving in the State House.
It did not. It got
It did
taken
not?
off the chopping block.
Oh,
yes.
sorry. That's just what I heard.
Yes, it was on the chopping block because somebody in the governor's budget world said, "Oh, you can just Google anything."
Right.
Yeah.
And we were like, librarians unite, and it's good. It's back. Inspire's not going away. So yeah, so it's there. Big pot.
It's kind of overwhelming to your non-techie teachers, so that's why I decided to make some professional development in directing them to find it, because when you go in and look, there's so much there. And so, just taking that time during the staff meeting to show them, to have the person from the library say, if you go in here, this is where this topic is, and they actually listen.
I do have a question while we're in the library world. How do you guys handle copyright?
For what?
That's a whole day right there.
Because that's one thing that I'm supposed to be the copyright specialist for a corporation, but I'm the person who I feel like when I start talking, they're like, don't, you know, like they don't want to hear me because I'm like, you can't do that. So I don't,
Well,
who handles that?
Well, we kind of started down that road. We got a really not pleasant email a couple months ago from a lawyer saying, get rid of it or else. What happened was a teacher had posted a PDF from a publication that they used in a public course, didn't get permission from the publisher. And believe it or not, I learned this, there's actually a company that these publishers pay money to, and they have bots that scan the internet, but they also embed like a VIN number inside of these documents that you cannot remove no matter how many times you copy it, change the format or whatever. And they embed it in images and in these documents, and it scans and looks for these things. So we got slapped and got a really, really pleasant email from Canvas saying, you know, don't worry, we're taking care of this, but please make sure that, you know, your teachers are aware that you've got to be careful what you post. So, you know, I sent out a general email. I said, hey, just be mindful of what you post online. If it's not yours, think twice. And oh my goodness.
I got about 50 calls that day asking me, is this okay? Is this okay? Can I put this on there? Is that okay?
How did the teacher post it?
They
their
uploaded it
Canvas
into a Canvas course, but their course was marked as publicly
Public
viewable.
posts, that's why.
That's where it got found. But on the other side of that, you still fight that battle of, if you still don't have permission, don't even post it privately, because if someone downloads it, and we're on that chopping block again for a teacher who's using a curriculum with videos. Well, he has a very, very thin string with the company to take those videos and put them in Canvas, because our kids don't have access to Vimeo, which is where they're hosted, and you punch in a password, you can't download them. But in Canvas, if somebody finds those, they can download them, post them to YouTube. We're going to get sued big time if those videos start showing up, because we're the only ones that have been granted that permission right now. So, you know, that teacher, he doesn't like to be in that situation because it puts him in a very awkward place. You know, and I'm like, well, that's not for you, put it on me or put it above us. But we've also had the discussion of the responsibility ultimately lies upon our district, that if a lawsuit is issued, our district is ultimately liable. The teacher is not held liable. The district will be held liable for that. So they're the ones that have to fight
That gets
about
called
it.
in.
Yeah, but it is something that, you know, you just kind of, you get going and you forget about it. And
Well, I mean, I hate to hear that you've got, but I'm kind of glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be like, it happens.
It does.
No,
We are
because
done.
they start happening to teachers.
Right.
Well, I had a lawsuit because of an image. Just an image that you didn't have rights to as a photographer's image was put into a school or a classroom newsletter. And got sued. So
But it ends up that this person, and there are lots of persons like this, that this person, that's what his MO is. He goes out, puts pictures out there publicly that are copyrighted because he took them and then sues them.
It's a great business model.
I said last summer I did this thing where we were writing, and everybody had to come to this one workshop, and we had a series of style sheets and things like that. But one of the other pieces was how to avoid copyright problems, Creative Commons, to go for pictures and music is a piece of that. But I just see a few people. And so getting out there, and with Canvas coming in to everybody next year, you know, again, it's going to be another battle of making sure that
Well, teachers think, and we've had the fair use law, you know, they think everything's fair use. However, it used to be probably we're safe. You should copy something for your classroom, you're handing it out. But we're putting everything online. And like you said, there are bots out, I mean, there's things searching, and I don't think they get that, you know.
They still think it's 10 seconds is.
I'm like, it's not one single person just like Googling, like, it's you know, something searching constantly for it.
It comes back to the whole idea that when we teach digital citizenship in Wayne Township, one of the main things we tell our students is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And teachers need to know that as well. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because it's out there, it doesn't mean you have the right to be able to take it and use it. We offer, and I teach digital citizenship classes when we do our conference every year for our staff members. And every time teachers leave, the comments that I get back on the feedback are, every one of our teachers needs to hear this information. Because it's easy to do. It's easy to just take something and use it and not give attribution and not really, and break the law in doing so. So
If
it's,
anyone's interested, oh, I just cut you off.
you did.
Sorry, I don't care. If anyone's interested, I'm sharing a copy of a presentation I did with our staff. That's kind of, those teachers used it to talk to their departments on copyright, what is fair use, what you can use, what you can't, has some resources in it. So if anyone wants that,
Where's that link?
I am copying it.
It'll be in the notes section of the agenda.
No problem.
I think just on top of that too, not just our teachers don't understand what it is, but we're asking our students to create presentations and do these things. What the students don't know is even more than what the teachers don't know. And we're asking them to do this, and they're putting this information out that they're using Prezi out there to be fun. And they're breaking these copyright rules. I taught science unit, or in the science class on this. They didn't believe me when I said that they were breaking copyright. They could, even when we started talking about music, you can't share your, something you downloaded from iTunes that you purchased, you can't share with your friends. Yes. No, we can't do that. And so we have to make sure we're talking to the students too, teaching the teachers, so then they can guide the students so that they're not getting in trouble too.
When I worked with students just before spring break, my family has CDs that we've produced. And I told them the story about a kid who, a lady who came up to us and said, "Oh, I love your music so much, and my mom loved it too, and so I took the CD and put it on her computer." And telling the students that I was the one who had material that was plagiarized, she stole $15 from me. No, she didn't. Yes, she did. Had she purchased that herself, then I would have that $15 and be able to use that $15 to make more music. The kids were just like, really? It was because
doesn't mean you own the art.
just because you have the song, you don't own that music. You own a copy of that music when you have a CD. And they didn't put that together. They thought, I own this song. No, you don't. You didn't write it. You didn't perform on it. You didn't produce it. You didn't do the artwork for it. And as I started listing these things that go into making a CD, they're like, wow. And I said, yeah, you're talking millions of dollars for a CD, for that one song. And they just don't get the scope of it. They just think, oh, it's easy to do. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. It all comes down to that. So what else about, Sean?
Who do you follow? Here's my question. I have staff that are starting to comprehend that their textbooks are not going to be renewed. The copies they have is it. And the question from one staff is, look, we were a failing school. You've asked us to create digital content in the summer. All we're doing is archiving bad practices. Why can't you just go out to the top school? He named him, so he said that the highest test scores in the state. Why can't you just approach them and say, can we buy your curriculum? So my question is, who do you follow? We're in that transition of helping our staff realize you have to create content because we're not going to buy you books anymore. So it's a pivotal part for a district. I'd like to tell them, who do you follow? Where do you find good content rather than this tsunami of, oh, it's all out there. You pick the best that pieces together that best meets your community needs. And some staff says, just tell us the good stuff. Let's follow the best, and let's do our best to follow. How do you help in that regard? Who do you follow, and how do you help staff who just want to be told what to do?
Don't look at me.
That's why I'm here today, friends.
I think it also still comes back to the fact that we're still fighting that battle of transformation in the classroom. Whatever that transformation is. And it's not necessarily dealing with technology. I think it's just dealing with a curator of information that you can provide information to your students to learn, rather than here's the one resource that we're going to use, the textbook, because that isn't the only resource. And there could be better resources than that one. And that mind shift still has to happen in the minds of our teachers, and we're making progress. I think about when I first got this job as technology training specialist in Brownsburg in the year 2000, and there weren't many of us around. There were probably a handful of 5 or 6 of us in the state, and it's been a progress between then and now, and I've seen the progress throughout that. But still, we battle the idea of just give me a book. Well, that one book is still in itself a problem because it's the one resource. Whenever we talk about resource curation for a research project, we always tell our kids, don't use just one resource. Well, then we need to follow that practice and not just use one resource in the classroom and use that one textbook as the be-all, end-all for the content in my classroom. I need to use other resources that are available.
You know, I think one thing, I'll mention a terrible thing you mentioned right now, I'm going to mention Miami Campus again. One of the things they did when they said, okay, we're going to start certifying some of our bundles, that was a big positive move because, you know, one of the complaints I used to hear from teachers was, this stuff is junk.
Yeah.
How do we, and that's what you're asking, is how do we discern what's good and what's not? And then they started saying, okay, well, we're going to have a process. And I've been kind of talking to, when I saw Blackboard and when I saw Canvas, they said, are you guys moving that way? And I think Canvas said they were in their community area, where they were going to start really stamping some things. That's what we need is somebody to say this is the level of quality that this stuff is.
That's where the DOE started.
Yes.
And that's Michelle and I created the checklist that My Big Campus then kind of modified and used for their certification stamp. And the DOE had to have a way to get this information to somebody, the people in the state who needed that information. And then they came up with My Big Campus because My Big Campus offered it to free to the state. So that's kind of how the My Big Campus got involved. But it started really with a need for high quality content, which then was driven by, when that was all created with My Big Campus, it was driven by high quality lessons in the classroom. That was all designed because of high quality lesson design in the classroom, the need for that. Well then, okay, let's pull that up to how do we transfer these lessons to the masses so that people have something they can trust is high quality, and they also can look at a list of things that prove that this is high quality. Here are the things that you're going to find in all of these things that have this little label that say it's high quality. And so then you've got this checklist of things that you can assume that this is going to be in here. You have to standardize on something that everybody can agree upon.
I think we can still do that. This started. You guys know I love My Big Campus, but I think that started because of us. That didn't start because that was a My Big Campus idea. That was a group of Indiana educators saying that this needs to happen. And
I think that's where I'm at. We got to start asking Canvas and Blackboard.
Well, I know that Molly Knoll she's still working on this digital content cadre, and that's the kind of the question she's asking now. This is so beneficial. We have so much talent and expertise right here in our own state. How can we continue to create some sort of curation tool for all the different types of content that'll fit into whatever elements you decide to go with? And so I think as we have ideas, that needs to be our point person. Because I think even if we're not in the same place, I think we all still have the ability that within the group of us here in Indiana certainly can come up with a way to make that possible. And she's kind of asking those questions. So as you have ideas, I think contacting her is really beneficial.
Mm-hmm. The unifying factor there ends up being the e-learning team at the DOE and Molly in really kind of spearheading that process. Now it ends up being, where is all that going to live eventually when My Big Campus goes away, or whatever they end up doing, and hopefully we can ask some questions in a little while. But when that happens, where's all that going to live? Where's all that high quality content that we all agreed was high quality? Where's it all going to live so that we can still access it from now on? And going from here on out, where do we put high quality content, and what do we agree is high quality? What's that standard? Anybody else want to chew on digital content?
Have you talked to Candace about the My Big Campus situation? I mean, do they feel, I'm concerned that they're feeling a little burned and may not want to jump right into the next best thing.
When I got my response back from Candace, and I won't make her response public, I would say that they are trying to just kind of wait.
I don't know that they're going to. No, they didn't endorse technically didn't endorse My Big Campus, so they can't do that. But they pretty much endorsed My Big Campus. Saying, I don't think that their plan is to do that. I think there were a lot of, that partnership was more than just a vendor partnership. They did things because we wanted them, and then it was also cost effective. So my impression is that that's not something that we're going to probably see anytime soon.
What would stop something like what has happened with My Big Campus from happening to another tool that the DOE is picking? That ends up being the problem. And I know that when the DOE came out with Learning Connection, that's kind of I think in the back of their minds where they wanted this all to go. Then they're running it. They own the backbone, and so therefore, I don't know that Learning Connection is the answer, but because we can guarantee that it's going to be in existence because it isn't a company that's running it and can make decisions separate from the DOE. But there may not be a place where all of it lives at one place, and districts are going to kind of have to now scatter like this rather than coming together into a My Big Campus world where there is a list of high quality content that's all curated there for you.
I applaud the state for what they tried to do, in the sense that they try to get people into an LMS that had given teachers a lot of power. So I applaud that. They got a lot of people going that wouldn't have gotten going. Now it's maybe up to us to move on. But I like the idea that they will help us maybe in the other mode of starting to house good content.
I just don't think we're going to see it within an LMS. We're going to see it outside.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't bad. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
I think it'll make it more difficult because it's not centrally located in one place.
And you'd also have to change it and adapt it for your LMS too.
Yeah.
Well, if it's all saved as a common cartridge.
Yeah, it depends on how well they're looking at that as saving it as a common cartridge. The problem with common cartridge, you take something from a certain LMS that has a certain formatting, you make it as standardized as possible, which means you're going to strip it down some, put it in something else. So, yeah, I'm glad I don't have that.
It is a place to start, though.
But I will tell you also, just like we don't want teachers teaching the same thing they taught last year, you can fall into that with digital content. All the bundles that have been made with My Big Campus, there's new stuff out there since those have been created that could be better.
But I never saw anybody, well, I don't say that, but it seemed to me that people who grabbed onto something like that didn't keep it the same. They automatically started editing it, making it theirs.
I mean, just like anything else in technology, it becomes obsolete as soon as it's posted. Just like anything else, any content, just like a textbook.
This may not be exactly what we're talking about in terms of like a central location, but using like the Google Plus groups and those technology integration groups and stuff like that. By the way, if you're not part of those yet, Robin's stuff is awesome. Like all the stuff that everyone posts on those things is really, really cool. It's been a great resource for me, but I can see that being really powerful in our state. If we as a group made it kind of an initiative to say, hey, we need to push our teachers to make it an Indiana biology group, and an Indiana algebra group, and an Indiana and then have people have those conversations.
Wait, those
through social
exist?
media.
Yeah.
Do those exist?
Yes.
Yeah.
They use them.
Is it called learning connections?
Well.
No.
Things that teachers use.
Yeah. The Indiana e-learning team has created communities for grade levels and for subject level areas. You need to get into those communities and search those by all means. If somebody can put a link to that, because there's a page that they have that just lists all of those communities that Michelle Green and their
Communities of
team.
practice or what they're called.
Yeah, I want to say that they're called communities
of practice.
for practice, and get it. Those are fairly active. To be a part of all of them, I can't tell you even which ones are, but I just remember when she set them up, becoming a member of several of them, and I get information that's pulled to me that I then can just pull together and curate and then disseminate to my teachers and say, hey, found this really cool resource, here it is. And what I usually do would tag that with, you want to become a part of this community, here's a link to it. And then that teacher, I've then given that teacher the directions to the water rather than completely giving them the water all the time.
I think it seems ironic to me that we're sharing a block today in this session. I can't think of anything that I've ever put into an LMS editing process that I could not contain a certain way in a Google Doc. 16 HTML and its links and its pictures and its videos and its whatever.
That's why Google Classroom has taken off.
Well,
And Molly's created a template in a Google Doc for Google content.
Classroom is about distribution of something. Maybe, I don't know. I'm still wondering sometimes about Google Classroom. But Google, just gaffe anything seems like the great common denominator right now. Maybe even more so than NBC ever would have done or could have done. And as long as there are vendor solutions that we choose to go to as Canvas and Blackboard and D2L and whatever they are, you're still going to have some formatting issues. And maybe, if nothing else, that's an attempt to put it into a system that speaks to my grade book. Maybe that's one of the things we're trying to accomplish with an LMS, although they don't all do that either. But I don't know. If I was DOE, if nothing else, for right now, until something better comes along, I don't know what better there is than just the commonality of what we already know is Google shared docs, shared something.
So Google decides to pull the plug.
Yeah.
I know, bite your tongue, right? They are a business. They're in the business of making money.
I mean, I have this battle all the time. I don't have this battle. I have this question brought up because people were told my vacations never go away, and they were always told everything goes away. But I think the one thing I do put
except for taxes.
It's in the corporate charter. You come from Stanford. They've been committed. They've been reinvesting and continually changing. It is the one and only thing that I do to my teachers. It's okay. You can be here.
But not all of the products stick around.
No, that's what I'm thinking.
True, but I mean, we were just talking for Plus might be.
I've heard
shop
of
too.
just photos and streets, and split into photos and streets.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever use Google Square?
What's that?
What's that?
That was one of those
I use Square Reader.
It was you go to Google Square and you do a search, like say presidents, and you'd have every president with all this information going down the line, like where they were born, when they served, who their wife was. They had all this, and then you could add, students could go add their own item, and would fill, and every one of those boxes on that president say was a link to a page. And it was a really neat thing. I showed teachers, they say, "Oh, that was really cool," and it went away.
Yeah, there's nothing on the first 5 hits on Google on it. Let me Google that for you.
Announced in 2009 and shut down in 2011.
But to that, I'm just being devil's advocate. I think things like Drive are going to probably stick around.
Well, if you think about it ever potentially going away, You saw that they had, in the new Google Drive, they had the shared documents called incoming. People bragged about it and they changed it back to shared with me. Can you imagine the people if Drive just kind of went away? Yeah, incoming. There'd be incoming for sure. So we're gonna, just to stay on task and stay on track with our agenda. Someone put topics about test security. Moving on from digital content into test security. What are you doing about test security and ensuring that you have a secure environment for your students as far as plagiarism and proctoring and all this stuff?
Do you mean in a general classroom, or are we talking like remotely? When I think about secure testing, I'm thinking about remote proctor, companies like that do proctor testing for you.
It's like lockdowns, browsers, is that what kind of referring to for
I think we've talked about wanting, like, our teachers want something so that kids can't open multiple tabs and go out and search, and to know that when their kids are taking the test, like, because we have the tests in Canvas, that they're not able to go out and search. And some teachers have put passwords and time limits, which help, but it's still not a secure test site. And I want something that's secure.
We're moving toward web zones with Lightspeed, and then with FileWave, looks like we might go on iPads to, they have a thing called single app, one app. A single app mode.
There are LMSs that do it, like Blackboard and It's Learning, do lockdown browsers.
Yeah.
Canvas has you can link with Respondus, but it doesn't work on the phone. So we talked about having an alternative login for the students, which they would have another email that would be like app testing. And then when they opened it, would only go to Canvas.
How could you guarantee they'd log into that and not their personal?
Teachers would have to look at because it would say testing across the screen real big.
Yeah, I would think a really high stakes test, you put your Chromebooks in a kiosk mode and have them launch it.
We talked
But
about
that's
that.
kind of hard to do on
Yeah.
in Lawrence Township.
Yeah.
That's gonna be tough to do.
We started down that road, and our network admin looked at me, and I thought he was going to take my head off, because he's like, "There's no way you can manually manage that movement in and out of those OUs."
Yeah.
It's like, so that's what we
Even for as small as we are, I mean, I'd only consider doing that for like finals.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they're looking at is more of those bigger tests, like, end of
And we considered that option with the separate domain, because that's how the ECA tester does it. The kids get a tester ID from the company, from QuestArt, and then it's just a white, the only whitelisted site is their site. So kids can't do anything else. So in a classroom, it's okay, but if we're going to do it virtually, there's nothing to prove.
In a classroom, there are free things you can do, like rows and stand behind them.
Walk around.
I mean, walking around, kids will switch between tabs or hide things, but I mean, ultimately, I'm not saying put kids in rows every day.
Cheater's gonna cheat.
Right. They're also
Put them in
talking
rows
about like
for the-
screenshots. Like kids can take like the ability to take screenshots, and then they can send that to their friend, and those kind of things as well. Not just looking from tab to tab, but you can screenshot in like an instant. Even if you're standing behind and the kids are typing, you're not going to be able to tell.
Not to mention that the phone can take a screenshot of the screen.
The other thing, I have a teacher who requires the kids to cheat on tests. They have to go out and,
That's what Michelle was just saying. Make a better test.
Well, yeah, we talked about too, like what is
That's easy
what
for
are we
us to say,
testing?
though.
Right.
Yeah.
A better test means it's not easy to fit
You
through
go
the
say that to a
scantron.
teacher. Let's make a better test.
It's what are you testing on? Is it application or is it regurgitation? And,
Right.
and that's something that we've talked to our teachers a lot about. But math always seems to be the bone of contention. Like there's one answer, and especially if they're doing like a multiple choice test, it's not like.
Well, math
Question
and
takes a
digital
lot.
ends up being an issue as well, because you can't write it.
Right,
Is what
they're having
what usually the argument is. You can't write it. If I had a way to write, although did you hear that Google has handwriting recognition now? That's kind of cool.
you've seen the GMAT.
Yes.
Docs. He's building handwriting into that. He's got voice right now. He's building handwriting into it. He also has a plugin for forms where the kids can turn in GMAT. They can compose it, submit that as an answer, and his next iteration will have auto grading like Fugu, so the kids can submit graphs, equations, and it'll grade it.
That's cool.
I know. We're struggling for once.
One thing we're trying to do, we have iPads in 6 and 12, and we have like Saints Home Manager. We were going to integrate into Content Campus, but we can use it without that, and you still get some of the red zone functionality through the Manager, but giving some teachers some of the control of that MDN, very small pieces, but where they can go in and lock students down. So you don't have to deploy single app mode across or through technology. The teachers can do that in their class, or they can put time policies in and do some of that for the day-to-day assessment in the classroom if they're concerned with anything. They can wipe the sites or to actual sites. So that's something we're trying to do beyond the state testing, but the day-to-day stuff in the classroom.
By the way, state testing, we had, you know what next week is going to be like, right? We bought a bunch of these to put in elementary schools to add an actual lab to each school. And so we thought, well, we better do another step. We did a separate stress test, and it was fatal, miserably, very quickly. And so we said, okay, well, so we did this test, this stress test where we saw, okay, how many, so we started turning on devices to see when it would fail. We hit 100 devices and it failed. So the company, that was us, of course, and then we came down and checked and said, oh, no. So if 100 devices make the stress test fail, what's the mistake? This is pretty bad. Well, they probably fixed it better.
I'm just curious, how many people are starting on Thursday next week? Or did you decide to wait till Monday? Is there anybody starting Thursday? You're starting Thursday?
I think we have some scheduled starting Thursday.
A couple grades are starting Thursday. I sat there in front of my schedule going, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to pick. So it is nice being one-to-one with Chromebooks because my grades could kind of decide what they wanted to do in theory what's best for their kids. So I've got, they're all over the place, but the twist is that we told the rest of the school, if classes are taking the ISTEP test, you cannot use your Chromebook for instruction because I want to control what I can control. Well, that is wreaking havoc now for 2.5 weeks because they're all picking and choosing when they want to do stuff. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've created my own nightmare on top of the nightmare that is already going to happen in the rest of the state. So I'm just, I'm anxious to see what's going to happen. And, as much planning as we all do, it's all going to, Oklahoma, come on and do whatever, so I'm anxious to see what this is going to look like and have they learned anything in the past few years. But I have a few brave souls on Thursday.
How many is going ahead?
650 students, the district, 650 in my building. So
you're just one, okay.
I'm just one.
No.
I'd like my own headache. That's it. The middle school can do their thing. And they are not one-to-one, so she's got to do the schedule based on her labs, which is a whole other, that's a bigger nightmare. How do you cycle these kids through the 4 hours or whatever of testing? It's insane. Anyway, just curious. Silly screen here.
Perfect timing. 10:45. Let's take a little break till 11 o'clock. We'll come back and talk about the elephant in the ring.
I have no idea how it's created. Maybe you might have to do
Google, when you get a file and it has that dot at the end, do you know why it's like a duplicate copy? It almost, it reminds me of like Microsoft Office.
Yeah, is it a G doc?
Yeah, it's like a Google Doc, but then it says .g doc, and on the web, where you pull up Google Drive, it has like a blue page corner tab. But in it opens in what I'm gonna call the older version, like the same copy of it. If you open up that, it'll pull up as a Google Doc in the web. But if you're in web Google Drive and you click on it, it says can't be opened. I don't know how they're even like.
I've not ever, Michelle, have you ever seen a document like that?
I have. On the internet has.
The internet has? Yeah, I would Google it.
It's almost, I did, but I can't. It's almost
Sorry,
like.
Darby.
Someone said the exact
We're
same
almost
thing,
related.
open it outside of Drive, but not inside of Drive. Okay, so here's what I did, and I'm not fixing mine by accident.
You did not? No kidding. Huh. No kidding. You and I have been in numerous meetings together.
This is really weird. This person said by accident.
Huh. That's my job.
They deleted the videos.
I think we might have started a little bit earlier with Carl. His job started off, his job always kind of
All right, let's get started again. Come back in and have a seat, and let's talk. Ready for this? Am I ready for this? No, I'm not going to leave this. Out of the way. How many of you were my campus district? Are my Okay. How many of you are my campus districts? That's the question. And if you may have used my campus in the bundles and things like that without really being a campus district at all. But just to lay this on the table, they have guaranteed, and I know guarantee is not a guarantee, but they've guaranteed my campus will be available through the end of next school year. If you haven't heard that yet, that came from Joe Heinrich, the CEO of last week. So they have said that it's going to be available through next school year. So they're not going to let sunset it this summer like it was originally announced. So that'll be available through then. So all that functionality will be there. I know that they pulled back on the number of fobs that are available. People who man that, or woman, that position as big Bob campus, will pull back on that. And they are in talks to try to find someone who, or some company that would potentially keep this product going. Merlene Johnson, who is their Lightspeed's kind of front woman. She's kind of, yeah, she got like a new title because she's the person who is dealing with the transition of my big campus away from Lightspeed into potentially another company. So she's going to join us at 11:30 today. But I first wanted to let us have a discussion before she came in on LMS. So we had a discussion last time we met. And it was interesting how heated the discussion got and how polarizing the discussion is with LMS and how great mine is and how better mine is than yours. It wasn't really how bad yours is, whichever kind mine is because of X, Y. And so, but there also is a thought that the learning management system is really kind of unnecessary, kind of on its way out. So I just wanted to add to the agenda because of the request that you guys had here as far as
Expand that statement you just made.
Which one?
About it's on its way out.
On its way out, meaning is it necessary? There is a school of thought that, do you need a learning management system? Or do you just need a collection of tools that will do processes? Do you need a textbook? Or do you need content? Kind of like that. Comes in various areas. Do you need an LMS? Or do you need just something? Because there are student information systems that have LMSs with them. There's a one-stop shop type situation that you could get if you wanted to. Diversification within a company can tend to hurt the company sometimes. We've seen it happen in business where a company does one thing really well and they start to do these other things. Well, then this thing starts to, tarnish a little bit. And so, if that's the case, do we need LMSs? I don't know if we need an LMS because as a classroom teacher, could I do all the stuff that a learning management system does in using other tools? One of the reasons that Joel is giving is because of Google Classroom. He's saying that teachers are using Google Classroom for a large portion of what my campus could do, even though it's not, an LMS. It's really not. There's a definition of LMS, but what does it all encompass? What are the things that it has to have? Well, that's really, nobody's really decided that. It has lots of things, but lots of people are using Google Classroom to do those types of things. And so that's one of the reasons Joel gave for my campus really kind of going away, is that school districts are deciding to, let their teachers decide they want to use Google Classroom to do those things like collection of resources, collection of assignments, and distribution of assignments, things like that. Yeah, what you're saying.
Well, I think a lot of us, when that news hit, we surveyed our teachers to find out what components of that LMS they were using. And so that's my question is what parts or what, like the discussion group seems to be the most
So somebody take notes on
part.
this. Let's continue, let's take that and say from this group, this mind meld here, what are the things of an LMS, the features of an LMS that you really think are important? And not necessarily of an LMS. What features are important in the classroom? Just tools.
So I was,
tools.
what came away for us was that that online discussion component was the most commonly used. It was the simplest and it had the biggest impact in the classroom, and the teachers, you know, just a good majority of our teachers were using that part. Some were using the assessment piece, but you have so many tools out there for the assessment piece. So what I've come away with, two things. You know, that week we talked to a lot of vendors, and a lot of vendors were lowering their prices, which in my mind, most of those LMSs like Canvas and Schoology and Edmodo, I mean, they're still $4, $5, $6 a student, which would, you know, any district of it, well, any district, let's just say that adds up to a lot of money each year. So do you really get your return on your investment with that expense? And then we started looking at just let's upgrade our Moodle server. So that's one of the cards that's on the table. It's free, it's fairly user friendly, and it gives you that discussion area. So, and then also the Smart Board version 14 has a new assessment piece that gives you the online component. So anyways, there are a lot of tools out there, especially with the assessment, Kahoot, and now the Smart BE. So that's what we've been thinking about.
I
Don't have
found
a solution.
earlier that the use of private campus was kind of like the blind man and the camel. Teachers came into it in different ways. I had one teacher who I thought was really big, and he was a really big private campus user. He was only using the blog. Now, I was shocked when I found that out, but I mean, students came in every day to his blog, and that's where they found out what they're doing for the day. That's where their stuff was. And it was whatever handle they could get on it, you know, whether it was discussion. A lot of teachers just use discussion. Excuse me. A lot of teachers just use that activity page. Come here. And
what we found at Wayne Township, we use Clarity Bright Lights as a technology evaluative tool to find out how technology is used, and it's absolutely fantastic. If you have not ever heard of it, I would highly recommend that you look at it, because we have totally guided our e-learning team with using Clarity Bright Lights. But we used that tool and found that, as many of you know, Wayne Township was a pilot school for private campus, so we are all in private campus. However, we found that through Clarity Bright Lights, that our teachers were not using it the way we thought they were using it, private campus, that is, and they weren't. It wasn't as penetrated into our district as we thought it was, and that came as a huge surprise to us. So I think that you would also find, and it's interesting when school districts say, "Oh well, we use an LMS, 100%." Really, 100%. Now, what I can say is that we have a portion of our district that is using private campus 100%. It's our virtual school, because they have to. That's their environment. They don't have another environment. So that portion of our school, yes, is 100%. But for a district to say 100% of our teachers are using this, okay, well, are you using it to, like you said, the blog? And that's all you're using it? So that's part of the 100%? So what is use of a learning management system? And are the dollars being spent, you know, appropriately when use is only really this much? If you look at really how much use is being used.
I think that what you just said is one of the largest factors in LMS or not is if you're 100% virtual classroom, there's not much choice. And so if you're looking for not only the full, robust features of a full featured LMS, but then it also has a grade book, which if you are 100% virtual, you probably aren't working, you may or may not be working with your SIS. So that makes a difference there, because the other stuff, if you're face to face or even flipped or whatever you are, but you still have that blended piece going. A lot of the tools that have full-blown cost in LMS supplies may not be necessary.
Right. So what tools of an LMS do you find your students or your teachers needing? Or what tools that traditionally an LMS would provide? We have discussion.
We don't currently use one, dabble with Moodle and different things, but my teachers are finding with the frustration with Google Classroom that they can't work ahead. They want the ability to develop a unit ahead of time, have their stuff posted. I mean, the only thing I can relate it to is in Google, the eyeball on, eyeball off. I mean, they want that, and Google Classroom does not afford them
That was one of the things that My Big Campus came out with at the very end. The last couple months, where you could hide and from students or not hide from students, well, not a couple months, probably the last 6 or 8 months. But that's also because it's not an LMS. It's not a learning management system. It's really a document management system. Is really all that it is. That has the ability to do some discussion. Is really kind of what that is.
I'm gonna push back, Robbie. I don't know, I think we do need an LMS. I think even if you're a teacher that's only using one feature of it, to have one common environment. Students need a place to go to get stuff, and Classroom provides that. But at the same time, to be able to have one environment, one set of tools that I'm consistently modeling. When I am a teacher, maybe I am only using the discussions part, or maybe I am only posting announcements. If I'm able to be immersed in the same environment as all of my peers when I'm ready, it's not learning a whole new tool set, it's learning one more feature within the same environment. I think that makes it easier for a teacher to add to their toolkit to do more things in the classroom, to have one tool that does so much.
And on the opposite side of that, you've got parents too. They go to one place to find all of their students' information. And as a tech integrator, you have to put your teachers in the right direction too, because they're out there on the web. Oh, I found this really cool tool. It's going to do this. And I'm like, our LMS already does that. Let's look at that part together, so they're not learning 12 different things and taking their students and their parents all over the place. They're going to one-stop shop, I guess.
Can I do everything outside of everything within an LMS with some other web tool? Certainly. Do I want to? Is it efficient? No.
Yeah.
I have a couple. The first one is kind of what both comments we made earlier. Yes, we had some teachers just using discussions. And yes, we just had some teachers using calendar. That was their workflow practice. It wasn't that they just preferred, they did everything that the discussion people did, everything the calendar people were doing. They just did it through this and just did it through the other. It doesn't mean they're not using the full capabilities, they're just choosing to go this way. So that was for me and for our teachers, and we were just getting going. That was a big selling point when I trained the teachers was, okay, you don't want to do that later, try this. Oh, I can do it that later, that's easy. It's not easier, but whatever you think, go. And the second point is, for us, a big deal was being able to integrate with our SIS so that the teachers didn't have to set up classes. I know in Google Classroom, it's simple, you give the code, blah, blah, blah. That's 2 more steps. And they don't want those. And well, what if the kid leaves? Well, they leave. I mean, from one viewpoint, it's not a big deal, but it's not a big deal from someone who has their hands on a keyboard all day long, like me. To them, it is a big deal. And so if that can be done automatically, where they don't even have to mess with this, that was an advantage of an LMS, and that's kind of what we're struggling with.
Yeah.
The other point I was going to make was about parents. We never got to the parent portal on My Big Campus, but it looks like we're going to be facing next year the Skyward Family Access. Canvas will definitely give us a parent portal. And we have a new grade book, the Marzano grade book, which will be published for parents. We're going to make them go to 3 different areas to find out what their kids are doing. And of course, I contend that they won't do those things. Some will, but many won't. That's the other point. And I was hoping that I could get one spot for you to go.
But you did have one spot before. I mean, here's all the
Well,
time.
Skyward was one spot.
But prior to that, prior to being digital, we didn't have parents who came in and put the chalkboard and saw what they were doing.
Oh, I agree.
And I mean, we think that it can do everything should be done in one place, but that didn't exist before. And I'm afraid to do that now. I'm afraid to completely invest, put all my eggs in one basket, will go the way of My Big Campus at some point, and you have to have the same discussion over and over and over again. So I'm I'm okay with my teachers being diversified as far as I want my calendar over here, I put my website, distributes here, I want to do this because then they're invested. But I know it's a hard sell.
Well, we're gonna have 3 grade books next year. Right, we'll have, the stuff they're doing in Canvas will go into that grade book automatically. Then in elementary school, they'll transfer it to the Marzano grade book, and then at the end of the year, they may be transferring it to Skyward for the grade system.
What district? Don't mind me asking.
Monroe County, Bloomington. So. The Marzano grade book is all theory right now. We'll use it as soon as it's ready, though, I guarantee you that. As soon as it comes out.
3 grade books, who's in charge?
Nice.
One solution that we've come up with in Lawrence Township, and I think it's mostly happening in Lawrence North, but we've got teachers who use the book for kind of day-to-day stuff, and use the Canvas grade book. And then when it comes to Skyward, that's where they're just officially recording like term grades and things like that. So it reduces some of that double and triple. I've said from the beginning when we very first started in the township talking about going to an LMS, I basically said I didn't think our teachers would buy in until it linked with the grade book. Until a kid could do an assignment on the LMS and that grade is in the grade book automatically, as long as the teacher has to pull up 2 spreadsheets and type numbers between 2 different things, why am I doing this? But the way I understand, Blackboard's going that way, Canvas is starting to go that way, we're getting closer. And I think once that happens, I think the LMS then does become important because it does automatically populate who's in the classes, who's there. And now I give an assignment on Canvas, kid does the assignment, it's in my grade book and it's done. That was more efficient. Right now, at least for us, it's not as efficient. I mean, yeah. So, it's coming.
Have you looked at Skyward's LMS? Skyward's LMS? Yeah. It kind of still had like big bolts going to the neck.
Yeah, we are kind of going down the road right now. Skyward is actually
just, I don't know, just go away, don't bother us, after June. It was like, and that message was huge.
Well, it definitely makes, I assume, a number of people in this group and our teachers, so we're talking thousands of people, not trust that, like, I can go back to my school district and say that my campus is going to be here another year. I'm not going to get any response because they've either failed to do a classroom before, or they're, you know, they heard that it's gone and they just don't want to spend, they can't spend the time, they can't invest time on something that may go away whenever.
Well, I took a lot of hits on my campus already because of problems that we, hit on. First of all, we had 8,500 iPads, and we're trying to make them work on iPads, and mobile problems, and we just kept getting hits.
In their defense, they set $10 million this on our requests. A third of their My Big Campus users were Indiana, using it for free. And then when they came around and needed to start making profit, when they could no longer offer it to us for free, we were the ones that didn't want to pay for it. So they can't hemorrhage money forever and give us a free product. I mean, it's not. I don't want to bash them as saying that, like, I really do believe, knowing those people on a personal level, they wanted to do really great things.
And they did.
And they did. And I don't know any other company that made as many changes as they did based on what actual teachers, real teachers in the classroom, conscious them about. So I just.
But it's a business. And
it's a business, and we have to pay for it.
When you were in San Antonio, did you ever hear them say those things?
That we had to pay for it?
No, that they were hemorrhaging money, that they were, there was financial problems,
What business is going to say
What
that?
business is going to tell their customers we're hemorrhaging
But what
money?
business is,
I mean, no one.
they're suddenly saying.
That'd be guaranteed to go under at that point.
I'm not seeing.
I love my big campus.
Yeah.
I was a advocate of it. The problem that we were having is that we were never asked if we would be willing to pay for it, and maybe we would have. So I'm not sure that the outcry of, can you guys afford this, was even at the user level. Maybe they asked the DOE, maybe they asked some bigger schools, maybe they asked somebody, but we were never asked. We would have.
What they were talking about is people whose contracts came up and they were talking with them. So when their business department is working with people and their contract's up, they are saying, well, I'll do a classroom amount, or I'll do one school, but I'm not going to pay for it across the board. So no, they didn't go out and reach out and say, we're going under, we need you to pay for this. Just people weren't paying for it when it was their time to renew their contract.
And that also is just.
Right, which is the, we can be mad and hurt, but I feel like taking it to a personal level, this isn't productive.
And I'm not mad
Because
at
it's,
them.
yeah.
I think they did great things while they were around. And I'm
Yeah.
not just about
And
that.
they have some really good plans for the future too. Like no one wants to leave us high and dry. So I'm excited for Merlin to talk. I think. I don't know. I just looking at on the
I'm
board.
sorry, I'm mad.
We all put in a
I'm
bad
gathering
spot.
that.
It was the abruptness and the lack of
Yes.
communication.
I understand that more than anyone. I have a full virtual spot
Right.
on it. I fully understand being in a frustrating spot. I had several texts like, "Do I need to talk you off the ledge?" But so I fully understand that. I just.
Hey, I resigned, I retired at the end of this year. People thought it was because my campus.
I didn't give him that option.
Hey, Jeremy, I'm going to have to probably use my computer or something because she's the last half hour of this meeting. And so I'm not sure if I'm not able to get her to that. Let me grab my here.
And the other thing I would say about them, though, you're right. I mean, they made so many fantastic changes in the last 12 months of that company. Things that people really wanted to see and were really happening, and that was what really felt good.
Yeah.
Anybody have a Mac dongle with them?
We really want.
Yes.
And I think that's the unique thing about LMS.
Yeah.
I have one in my backpack. It's that technology is developing at the same time as teachers are using it. I mean, it's a rare time where you see the technology being developed while teachers and school districts are invested in it. I think that's why, I mean, Canvas is the same way. There are a lot of things that they've changed and added this year based on end user input. And I think whether it be Blackboards, I think it's just a unique time and whatever the company is.
Oh, that's good.
That machine, or these machines are.
Oh, I thought the wire connection part would be good. What in the world is that cover?
You know, we have 1,000 teachers, and they all have, there's a bell curve. You have the top 10% that any technology, any change, they're good with. Then you've got the bottom 10 that hate everything and complain, and you can't appease them. That middle group is such a tender, sensitive group that when something doesn't work or gets dropped, and we aren't, we have to hold them gently and carefully, and we have to try to cautiously move them forward, and things like this really make that.
What everybody always asks, they always ask, okay, are we gonna stay with this? Is this something that's gonna just like Google? Google's still available. We never went away from it.
They're just going to be some afterthoughts from this.
They're on. I don't know.
I don't know why they're not showing it there.
I mean, everybody's getting the question now is, are we gonna stay with Canvas? No.
But that's the thing, that's gonna change. I mean, that's like a shift that we have to start gently getting those teachers on board with. Yes, this is here for now, and we're gonna hold your hand, and we're gonna guide you through, and I'm gonna do PDs out the wazoo for free and otherwise, to make sure that you are supported. But let's also talk about organization. Let's also talk about pulling stuff out of one system and putting it in another, so you teach them those. So then when it happens again, because it will, whether it's Canvas or whatever else, they feel more confident and more comfortable in making that shift themselves. And not being like, you took my textbook. Because this is like our teachers, this is year 2, they're in that moment again. They're taking my textbook again. Because we did that 2 years
A different something that, yeah, because it's the board with the accent. This one's topic. You know, do you want to try it on this one real quick again? Or?
I'm afraid that, especially with the time where we are right now, I'm afraid that when she starts talking, it's gonna cut and be off like it was before.
Four, 6, 15. For
There you go. Yes, you can go get all the resources without having.
I just don't understand why Hangouts isn't opening and working for me. Like,
I know. Like the week before they announced, I'm like, we just should not go there. Like we finally got mine to try it out for next year. It's like,
you know what? I think it might have started. Yeah, well, maybe it was because there was a.
Look at here's the audio. Not finding. Oh, there it went. Okay, so now it's actually.
I can look at other stuff. Yeah.
So why? There. Ridiculous thing. Okay, that's now it's working. All right, so you should have sound through the ceiling speakers. Yes. I go.
So I need Marlene to jump into the Hangout now. But I also have spectacles.
Okay. The Hangout's working.
Michelle, do you have Marlene's phone number there? Can you check that?
I'm gonna mute this one so it quits jumping over to it.
Oh yeah, yeah, good. Actually, you can just remove that one if you want.
Gotcha.
You want to just close out. Good.
Google, maybe.
So we're waiting for Marlene to get either in the Hangout or Skype. I've got both of them open, so we'll see. She knows it started at 11:30 Eastern time. You're seeing me.
There we go. We can blame it on the fact that it was downloading updates.
Oh. All right. So, Marlene, you can see me. I sent you an invite. Hopefully you got that.
Sounds good. Try this.
Try this one instead.
Let's see if that one.
She said she sees me, so she's in.
She joined just as a viewer? Not...
I don't know. I sent her an invite. So maybe I just start a hangout this way. All right, so for those of you who are watching otherwise, we're trying to get Merlene even on Skype because she's not getting the invitation I'm sending for her to become a participant rather than just a viewer. There we go. How are you, Merlene? No, that's all right. So you have been in the room for a while, in the hangout room, kind of watching what we're doing, right?
I just arrived about the time I think you were struggling to acknowledge I was there.
Okay. All right, so we've had about a half-hour long conversation about LMS and lots of different things. So do you have an announcement for us this morning?
The only announcement I have is that we're still trying to get an announcement.
Dang it. All right. Well, you have a room full of people who some of which are MyBigCampus users, some of which are looking, some of which never have been MyBigCampus users. And so because we knew that there would be a significant number of districts just because of Lightspeed's use across the state, which is why I wanted you to come and kind of just talk to us a little bit about what you know, because potentially the people in the room don't know what's been announced so far, and what you can tell us so far about a transition, recent announcements by Joel, things like that.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I was just giving you some background noise there. I think I've cleaned it up because I had the hangout going too, so that's probably better sounding up. Yeah, so we are continuing to work with one partner that we were back in Indiana with last week, and they've got documentation in legal department now. We hope to have something back from them yesterday that they've done so far as running all through there. We still feel really strongly that that's going to work, and we have actually several other LMS potential partners in line behind them. So this one is go down. We're pushing those guys as we can to make them timely and sensitive because we know all of this. So we're just going in and trying to plan for it. But we're probably seeing at minimum, our CEO Joel has committed to make sure that my campus is supported for that coming school year. So whatever plan falls into place, whichever partner we fall into place with, it'll include supporting through the 2015-16 school year. And some of you have been, heard some of this, talking on our initial announcement about coming up with a teacher dashboard that'll address a lot of some of the things that the campus was largely being used for. So that being the campus library and share and a single sign-on to Google Drive or Office 365 and any other applications you've been using. So that is actually going to QA tomorrow. It'll have any campus library on the website. Solving that original blocking issue, and it's going to have the capabilities of having working as a curriculum repository too, so that they have that district library sort of functionality introduced in December. So that is looking like it'll be in QA through next week, and we'll have something actually done and shown and release. And that'll be for every customer large for any of our products. So that's again trying to solve that problem with lightening the burden on IT and empowering teachers so that they can create those web zones and have more control over devices in the classroom and those. So a lot of that is integrations will still be available to all of our customers that are in the region. And the last piece that most probably interested in is that, if neither of those scenarios play out to these, how are we going to get good content out? And so the export tools well in a way that all the ones that will export the common cartridge are in testing now. So the group content actually can be exported. Discussions, resources, pages for the admin options in groups. So you can go there and export all that into one common cartridge file that can be exported. Are familiar with common cartridge? That's the one format that is exported and imported. It can be imported in almost any modern memory management system. So that's available already. But the other one that's in testing now is nice because they've made it so that you can grab all of the content in your drive, whether it's stuff you uploaded or it's content created by the campus for and bundles. You can grab it all at once and put it in one file, and that'll be available within the drive, I believe, and for your staff who's going to go to grab everything at once and then import that file elsewhere. They're also going to look and see if they can't figure out what it is for entire schools to be able to do that sort of export on behalf of their staff, so the staff really doesn't have to really do it themselves. They haven't got to that point yet.
Anybody got questions for Bernie?
So kind of those three things, right? We're still paying up time, hoping for it to make an announcement. How about the exercise you question everybody else? And then there's something else that's going to happen. And then second is the teacher dashboard again. And going to testing tomorrow, so we should be able to take a look at that Thursday. And then that's available. It'll be available for our licensed specialists for other products. So empowering that teacher in the classroom to be able to have more control over the internet access and policy. And then the export tools. They're all targeted to be released by the end of the school year. That'll give us time to make sure we're testing well and testing elements around the important to make sure that they're working nicely and also a good documenting this for the
teacher dashboard. What will remain in teacher dashboard in the library?
Yeah, so lots of conversation around with like bundles and rubrics and efficacy box and things are in there now, right? So what we're looking at trying to figure out is anything that has been created in my campus and is shared there now, we're going to be able to modify it. So the obsolete will become junk in time, right? So trying to figure out in discussion now is could we export the bundles into some other format and then all in one swoop add them back into the library with the URL where they can still be updated and modified. And so that's what we're looking at is trying to figure out. Obviously, it's still going to work for all the videos and websites. There's a problem we're trying to solve with not only blocking the internet content, and then that created content, whatever we can, we're going to see if we can make it so that you can throw it back in, or we will automatically throw back in if you need to throw back in the URL and make it accessible.
Is there anything you can tell us from the company's perspective about those of us that have the filter and how that would maybe connect with money's an issue, and if we have the filter, we weren't paying. Yeah, so anything that we're partnering with, that's one of the points of the partnership is to maintain those integrations. So if we're able to strike a deal with another LMS, we will work with them to make sure that it works with our filter just the way my campus does. So you have that same cooperation and not over one content. And then if you're filtering questions, you just want to go off and use Google or Office 365 and not just doing the LMS. The teacher dashboard would be the way to be able to allow teachers to access content. That's the teacher dashboard is the same at campus library. That make sense? What you said makes sense, but I was more concerned about kind of the subscription price because we got the filter mainly because we got my campus with the filter. If it, as the company said to any other potential buyers that those Lightspeed people should get the product when you could get whatever this product is when you buy it from us. They should get it as part of their or not.
Yeah, I'm not a little difficult to do this, but I think the question is that you want to make sure that going forward, if you have a license and going forward, that you still get that additional functionality you have now, and you know that's and cooperates. And that's exactly our goal.
It's not going to be free.
That's what I wanted to know. Thanks.
No, the new.
And whatever partner we're working with, we'll honor whatever existing contracts there are too. So if you get paid through next year or 2 years or whatever, those contracts will be honored.
That's good to know. Oh, geez, I just
Merlene, just for clarification, that is as long as you are still in My Big Campus and the other company has it. If we were to migrate over to the new LMS, then we pay for that LMS, correct?
Right, so if you take, if you have license to use My Big Campus, there's about a collaborative web filter for you, so get 2 months on it. You would add 2 years of credit, and then you can start paying after that, which is without such a license. You would pay, full LMS last year. So, a scenario of having a 3-year contract with a partner company, if you had to pay us 2 years, that would cross over the new contract with them, and you'd only be paying on that for you because you would have with us.
Anything else?
Anything in my thing that I missed in earlier conversations, I don't know.
That's a loaded question, Merlene.
and it was, I think comment like how territorial everyone was about it. More to say today.
Yeah.
We all take it very personally.
Right.
Well, everybody's got a great investment in donations like us. If we're using them, there's a great investment, so I get that.
Yeah, it's more than just financial. It's there's an emotional, spiritual attachment as well. Clearly. Otherwise, I don't think it'd be as heated.
Yeah, and you know, as well, in addition to all of the things I mentioned about partnering with someone and integrating with the other part of the course is environment that kind of things, and that's the other part that really needs to be integrated in partners. So those are things that matter to you going forward. Those are things we're addressing to make sure they survive in the partnership.
Quick question. Right now, we use Clever with Live at Campus. Will Clever be a useful tool with the new teacher dashboard?
When you work with the dashboard, that's, you know, I honestly think, I can't answer that yet because there's so many things in flux. I know that they're talking about keeping Clever to be able to use it for our NPM. And it's a question on the table. I'll add to the list though here to make sure that we're addressing that in that transition FAQ one. And when we're able, once the rest is settled, and know what they're going to do there. Are you using Clever just for integration with our projects now, or are you using it for some other things as well?
We just like the name. Yeah, we're using it for other things.
And I think that that's the case with a lot of our customers, that they're using it for, you know, some of the applications. And so, yeah, let me make sure that we get that added. It's on my list, of long list of transition things we make sure that we do. So I'll add to the list of work and make sure once that we have some clarity on that, we get it added. That's a good thing. Well,
Okay.
thank you for inviting me and including me today. I'm sorry I wasn't able to do the proper hangout part.
No, that's all right. Yeah, I think some of us have our own opinions as far as the benefits of Hangouts versus Skype versus other tools.
I've successfully been in hangouts before. For whatever reason, I wasn't getting, I was getting all the messages that invite, but I couldn't find the actual invite. So,
Okay, no worries. Hey, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it.
all right, thank you all. Have a great day.
Yep. See you later, Maureen.
Bye.
All right. Well, anything else that anybody has for the good of the group? Yes, Sean. Sean and I were talking earlier today about the question I said about where are you in your kind of rollout. We can see like what experience level is there, specifically among this group, as opposed to maybe the heck list or something like that. With us being integrators and really kind of being the ones who are responsible for the PD and the specifically for working with teachers and rollout, things like that, and maybe getting some responses from this group. It might be different from the audience that you had at the heck list. So if you have an opportunity at the bottom of that agenda to fill that out, that would be great, and you can see the responses and where you all are. We probably could have put that in the attendance list too. Had you and I talked about that, we could have put it in the attendance form. No big deal. So fill that out and look at that as a resource also. So thank you for coming today. Thanks to Lawrence Township for hosting today. Appreciate it. And also thanks to Edmund for breakfast. Have a great end of your year, and we haven't talked about where we're going to. Oh, you know what? We probably could do that. Anybody want to host next time? September, October timeframe next year, next school year.
I'd love to host it, but I'll be gone. I'll volunteer with you.
Yeah, we can all go to Bloomington. Wayne can do it. I don't care. Wayne can do it. Talk to Patty. Or can you make that a decision? You can. Wow. I'm typing. I've got it right. Could you say that a little louder? We haven't done Designsville before. Let's get on that. Let's do Designsville September, October. I'll get with Kyle and I'll put it out on the team listserv and as well as the coaches group. And I'll put it up on the listserv as well. We can look at the date sometime in September, October time frame. Anybody wants to do the next one, which is usually kind of the January, February time frame. Where? Birmingham? Okay. That's a brand new one. You guys haven't hosted before. I don't remember ever being there in the last 12 years since I've been doing it in the Barber group. So Irvington, am I writing that down? Because I don't have my computers. You didn't get it. Okay, put it up in the top of the agenda. Where those at the top where it says September, October. Great. And then the last one of the year. Anybody want it? You'll do it? Where? HSE. We haven't been there. I don't have to recall being back. Good. 3 brand new places for next year. Fantastic. Thanks for coming today. Have a fantastic end of your year.